It all started when my family decided to take my sister on a special trip, leaving me behind. I was always the afterthought, but this time I felt it deep. Then, out of nowhere, a stranger appeared at my door. She handed me a check for $50,000 and dropped a bombshell. She was our biological mother. The words hit like a slap to the face. I couldn't believe it. Who was this woman? She looked so much like my mother, yet so different. It didn't make sense. But she seemed genuine, and as she stood there, something about her made me listen. Her presence was unsettling, but the story she was about to tell would change everything. She explained, in her calm but firm voice, that she had been living in the UK for 20 years and had just recently reconnected with our family. I tried to process this as she told me that she was our biological mother. My world tilted, my mind racing to understand. This woman was claiming to be someone I thought was lost to me forever, and now, here she was, standing in my living room. My mind flashed back to the life I had known. My parents had always been distant, especially my sister. Alex, my twin, was spoiled, and I was a quiet one. She was a favorite, the center of attention, always getting the best gifts and trips. So when they left for Hawaii to celebrate her graduation, I felt utterly alone. But now, this stranger was here. And she wasn't just any stranger. She was a woman who had given us up, the one who had vanished from our lives. I invited her in, still unsure what was happening. She was persistent, though. She said she wasn't there to see my parents, but rather to see me. My curiosity, mixed with suspicion, pushed me to ask, why me? Why now? Her answer left me speechless. She claimed she wanted to make up for lost time. It was as if she had just appeared out of nowhere, ready to throw me into a new reality. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She reached into her purse and pulled out a checkbook. I want to give you something, she said. My heart skipped a beat as she handed me the checkbook. I couldn't believe what was happening. She asked me to fill in the amount, but before I could say anything, she took control and wrote me a check for $50,000. I was paralyzed with shock. How could this be real? It didn't make sense, yet there it was, a check for a staggering amount. She told me to take it as a gift, as an apology for all the years she had been absent. My mind was spinning. This was a gift, but why now? The conversation continued, but I couldn't focus on the words anymore. Everything felt like it was happening in slow motion. Her presence was too much. My gut screamed that something wasn't right, but I had no proof, just this overwhelming feeling of unease. Before leaving, she told me she would be in touch, that this was just the beginning. I watched her leave, her footsteps echoing down the hallway, leaving me with a mix of confusion and disbelief. I didn't even realize what I had done next. Left a check on the coffee table, forgotten under a pile of mail. The chaos of the encounter had made me forget the one thing that could change my life. I went back to my routine, the routine that had been mine in this empty house while my family was off in Hawaii, living their dream. The day my family returned was anything but ordinary. They were all cheerful, except for me, of course. As they started going through the mail, I saw my father's hand freeze when he picked up the check. His eyes widened as he stared at it. My stomach dropped. He knew. He asked questions, and I knew then that I couldn't hide the truth any longer. I told him about the woman, how she came, how she gave me the check. The room felt thick with tension as my parents' faces paled. Something about their reaction seemed off. They were hiding something. I could feel it. As I spoke, my sister Alex immediately turned the focus to the check, asking why it was addressed only to me. She demanded I share it with her. My parents, instead of defending me, egg her on. It was as if they were trying to distract us both from the real issue, the issue that they didn't want us to uncover. The argument escalated quickly, my frustration reaching its peak. But just as I was about to confront my parents about their strange behavior, they made a shocking ultimatum. If I refused to share the money, I would no longer be able to live with them. That was the breaking point. I couldn't keep it inside any longer. I yelled. I fought back. I told them I wasn't going to back down. I had every right to keep what was given to me. As the days passed, I realized just how isolated I'd become. My family didn't speak to me, except for Alex, who, as usual, only looked out for herself. But then, something changed. My biological mother reached out to me again, this time through social media, revealing a truth that shattered everything I thought I knew. She wasn't just a distant relative. She was my mother, the woman who had been forced to give us up. Alex and I were her children, born in secret. My whole life had been a lie. My parents had adopted us after my biological mother was coerced into putting us up for adoption. But it wasn't just that. My biological mother had regretted it all these years. She had stayed away for our sake, but she never stopped thinking about us. It took me a while to process everything she told me. I felt lost, confused. How could I be expected to just accept this truth? My family, who had never treated me with respect, now seemed like strangers. They weren't just hiding secrets. They were actively trying to cover up their past. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't stay in that house any longer. So I made the decision. I left. My friend's parents offered me a place to stay, and for the first time in years, I felt like I had found a family that cared. But my life wasn't going to be easy. The truth about my biological mother and the betrayal of my adoptive family was something I would have to face head on. As I settled into my new life, my biological mother reached out again. She wanted to meet. She wanted to explain everything. To start over. I was scared, but also strangely hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, this was the second chance I'd been waiting for. But the question still lingered. What does this all mean for me? And how will my family react when they learn the truth? Stay tuned for the next chapter of my journey. This story isn't over yet. It's been a few days since I moved out. Life is different now, quieter, but also in a way more real. I'm still processing everything that happened. The $50,000 check, the stranger who turned out to be my biological mother, and the secret my family had been hiding for years. It feels like I stepped into a completely different world, one that I never thought I'd be part of. I'm not going to lie, it's hard. Every day feels like a battle between what I thought was true and reality that's slowly unfolding before me. But one thing I know for sure, I'm not going back to that house. I can't. Alex, as expected, has been silent about everything. She doesn't seem to care about the truth or what happened. She's too busy with her own world, and in a way, that's kind of relieving. I've always felt like I was invisible to her, and now it feels like she's finally giving me the space I needed. But I can't help but wonder if this newfound distance will change anything between us. What really haunts me, though, is how my parents have acted. They haven't said a word to me since I left. I thought they'd at least try to reach out, to explain, or even apologize. But they haven't. It's like they've completely shut me out. And yet, when I think about it, I'm not even sure I want them to. They've lied to me for so long, hidden so much, and now they're just silent. The truth keeps gnawing at me. The more I think about my biological mother's message, the more I start to piece together things that never made sense before. The way my parents treated me, the way they acted like they were doing me a favor by taking me in, none of it adds up. I'm starting to believe that my life was a lie, a carefully constructed facade to hide the truth about who I really am. I can't tell you how much that hurts. But there's also a strange sense of liberation. For the first time, I'm not bound by the lies. I'm free to figure out who I am, to build my own future without the weight of my family's secrets holding me back. I've decided to meet with my biological mother. She reached out to me, and as much as I'm terrified, I know this is something I need to do. I have to hear her side of the story, to understand why she made the decision she did, and maybe, just maybe, to find some peace with it all. The more I think about it, the more I realize that I've been living in someone else's shadow. But now, with this opportunity, I can step into the light, discover who I truly am, and maybe build the kind of family I always dreamed of. It's strange, the way things have unfolded. 1 minute, I was just a kid trying to survive in a family that didn't seem to care about me. The next, I'm standing at the edge of a revelation that could change everything. Will I ever understand why my parents did what they did? Why they kept me in the dark for so long? Maybe. But I know one thing. I can't go back. As I get ready for this meeting with my biological mother, I'm filled with conflicting emotions. I'm angry. I'm confused. But there's also a part of me that feels hope. Maybe this is the beginning of something new. Maybe, just maybe, I'll find the answers I've been searching for all along. But even as I prepare, I can't shake the feeling that my life is about to change forever. I just don't know if I'm ready for what's to come. 8:30. The waiting is the hardest part. Every moment feels like an eternity. I keep replaying the conversation in my head, trying to figure out what I'll say, what I'll ask, and what this meeting will mean for the future. But there's one thing I know for sure. No matter what happens, I can't keep living in the past. I have to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be. So, here I am, ready for whatever comes next, ready to confront the people who have shaped my life, and finally take control of my own future. The day of the meeting with my biological mother finally came. I was nervous, my hand shaking as I texted her to confirm the time and place. It felt like everything was moving so fast, and yet I was still stuck in this whirlwind of emotions. The fear of the unknown was consuming me. What would she say? What would I feel? I drove to the location, she suggested, my mind racing with questions. What did she want from me? What did she expect? Would I even be able to look her in the eye after all these years of unanswered questions? When I arrived, she was already there, standing outside a small cafe. She looked just like I remembered, only older, more worn, but her eyes, they were the same. It was like looking into the eyes of the person I had always wondered about. We sat down and I couldn't help but stare at her. She didn't say much at first, just smiled awkwardly, but I could see the sadness in her eyes. She was nervous, too. Finally, she spoke, her voice shaking, as if this conversation was as hard for her as it was for me. She explained everything. The reason she had left, why she had given us up, the painful decision to watch us be adopted by a family that she wasn't sure would ever accept us as their own. She told me how she had wanted to come back into our lives, but was always afraid of disrupting the world my parents had built for us. I felt a knot form in my stomach as the pieces of my past started to fall into place. My mother wasn't the villain I had always painted her to be. She was someone who had made the hardest decision of her life and carried that burden all these years. I didn't know how to react. Part of me wanted to scream, to ask why she hadn't fought harder for us, why she had let us go. But the other part of me wanted to embrace her, to forgive her for everything she had done. The pain was still there deep inside me, but it was slowly being replaced by something else. Something like understanding. She told me she kept track of us all these years, always hoping for the day when she could be part of our lives again. She said she had waited for the right time, but the more time passed, the harder it became. But now she was here. She wanted to be a part of my life. And as hard as it was, I knew that this moment was everything I had been waiting for. I had been searching for answers my entire life, and now they were finally being laid out in front of me. We talked for hours. We spoke about our past, our present, and what the future could look like. She apologized for not being there when I needed her, but she also told me that she was ready to make up for lost time. She wanted to be a mother to me, whether I accepted her or not. I didn't know if I was ready to fully accept her, but I knew one thing. I had to try. I couldn't let fear dictate my life anymore. I had already lost so much time, and now I had the chance to start over. It wasn't going to be easy, and it wasn't going to be perfect, but it was a chance. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. Before we parted ways, she gave me a photo album, one that she had kept hidden all these years. It was full of pictures of me and Alex when we were babies, pictures of our first steps, our first birthdays. It was a glimpse into a life I had never known, and it made me realize just how much I had been missing. As I drove back home, I thought about everything she had said. I was still processing it all, but one thing was certain, my life had changed forever. The truth had come crashing down on me, and now I had to figure out what to do with it. Would I ever be able to forgive my parents for the lies they had told me? Could I ever fully trust them again? The answer, I didn't know yet, but I knew I was done living in the dark. I had to confront the truth, no matter how painful it was. The next few days were a blur. My family didn't ask me about the meeting, but I could feel their eyes on me. They knew something had changed. I wasn't the same person I had been before. The secrets, the lies, they no longer had control over me. As for Alex, she still hadn't said anything. She went on with her life, the way she always did. But something was different. I was different. I wasn't going to let her or anyone else walk all over me anymore. I haven't told her about meeting my biological mother yet. Part of me doesn't know how to bring it up, and another part of me is afraid of how she'll react. But I also know that the truth can't stay buried forever. Sooner or later, she'll find out. And when she does, I'll be ready to face whatever comes next, no matter how difficult it may be. I'm learning how to live for myself now, not for the approval of my family. The $50,000 check feels less important now, a symbol of everything I've been through, but also a reminder that I don't need anyone's validation to know my worth. I'm not sure where my journey is going, but I know one thing. I'm not looking back. I'm moving forward one step at a time, and I'll figure out as I go. The past will always be a part of me, but it won't define me anymore. It's been a few more days, and things are starting to settle. I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened. The truth, the lies, the $50,000, and how everything has changed since that day my biological mother walked into my life. I'm still processing everything, but I've realized that I can't let my family's secrets dictate my future anymore. What's crazy is that, for the first time in my life, I feel like I have a choice. I have control over my future, over my relationships, and how I want to move forward. The power to decide who stays in my life and who doesn't is now in my hands, and it feels like a massive weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I haven't spoken to my parents much since I left. They haven't tried to reach out, and I haven't felt the need to either. What they did, the way they treated me, it still stings, but I'm slowly learning to let go of the anger. My biological mother reached out again, and this time she wants to meet Alex. She believes it's time for her to tell us both the truth. It's strange. My biological mother, the one who was once a stranger to me, is now the one I trust the most. She's the one who's been honest with me, who's tried to make up for the years lost. But I still don't know what to expect when Alex finds out. Will she accept this new reality? Or will it push her away like everything else? I've decided to tell Alex soon. I can't keep hiding this from her. She deserves to know the truth, no matter how complicated it might be. I don't know how she'll react, but I'm ready. We've been through so much, and maybe, just maybe, this could be the moment that changes everything between us. I still feel unsure about what the future holds. There's so much I still don't understand. But I know one thing. I'm done living in fear of the unknown. I'm ready to face whatever comes next, even if it's messy. Because at least now, I'm facing it with the truth. Life's not perfect. It's far from it. But it's mine now. I'm not hiding in the shadows anymore. And I realize that the truth, no matter how hard or painful it might be, is the only thing that can set me free. I'm taking control of my future. I'm deciding who I let into my life and who I choose to leave behind. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm finally living for myself. As for my parents, I still don't know if I'll ever forgive them. Maybe I will someday, but I know it's going to take time. It's not something I'm rushing into. Right now, I'm just focusing on me, on healing, on building new relationships, and on figuring out who I really am outside the family I thought I had. I'll be okay. I have to believe that. Thanks for sticking with me throughout this journey. The story may be coming to an end, but my life is just beginning. There are still so many things I don't know, but I'm ready to face them one step at a time. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more real-life stories. I'm not sure what will happen next, but I'm excited to share it with all of you. Stay tuned for more.